If you're somebody who struggles to create compelling, engaging visuals for your apps, websites, or even PowerPoint presentations, Anthropic's got you covered. They released Claude Design a few weeks ago, and it's great at designing. With Claude Design, you're able to create realistic prototypes, product wireframes, and you can explore different design concepts with variations. You can create pitch decks and presentations too, and anything else in between. Now, if you're a user of Claude Code, Claude Design is actually the perfect companion app for you because now you're able to explore the design before you start implementing it. So without further ado, in this video, I'll talk about what exactly Claude Design can do for you, who it's for, how much it costs, where to access it, and finally, how to integrate the designs into real production code using Claude Code. Now, first things first, you do need to be on a paid Claude plan to be able to access Claude Design. The bad news is that Anthropic doesn't tell you exactly what your limits are, but they have some rough estimates as to what you need. So if you're on the Pro plan, you get some basic one-off use every once in a while. If you are on the more premium max plans, you're able to use it more regularly. And if you're on the 20 plan, you probably don't have to worry about the limits at all. And for reference, currently the Pro plan is $20 USD a month. The Max 5 is $100 USD a month. And finally, the Max 20 is $200 USD a month. To actually access the application, you'll want to go to claude.ai/design. And once you go there, there is an animation for just getting onboarded, which we don't see on mine because I've already gone through it. But after you go through that, you'll land on this page. So Claude Design is able to do a lot of different things because it's a very generic design tool. You'll notice that it's able to create these mockups, but also wireframes. You can give it a design system as well. And you're able to create slide decks. And not only that, if you jump over to the examples, you'll see that we're able to create animations, various effects, and you're also able to tweak your designs with sliders to see different variations and see what happens when you change things around. But the best way to show you how Claude Design works is to just show you an example of some of its outputs. So I have here with me Call to Lead. This is just a product idea that I had where you convert voicemails into actionable leads. So I gave Claude the prompt of what I think the idea should be and what I wanted to see. And Claude Design asked me a bunch of different questions and I answered them. And it provided me with this landing page. Now, one thing to note here is that a lot of these designs are quite generic in some ways. I've noticed that Claude Design tends to really like this beige background. So if you want to get some better results out of Claude Design, you're going to have to give it some prompts to give it your own distinct flavor. If you don't provide those things, it's going to default to some of these generic looking things. But mind you, these generic looking things are fairly high level stuff. So this one was really good just because I wanted to visualize what I had in my head, and this is what it came up with. So it's a mobile app. It has interactive code, so you can actually navigate through some of these designs. It's got these leads that came in, and if you click into one of them, it's got a really nice UI that tells you, hey, that's probably what the voicemail sounds like. There's a triage section, some suggested next steps, and it's all fully interactive. Super impressive stuff. And scrolling down, you can see that there is an operator dashboard as well. So this app, the idea was that there's a mobile device and also a web UI that operators can use. And this is also very interactive. Safir is a mobile product I've been working on for quite some time now. We actually have our first customer, which I'm really excited about, but I wanted to see if Claude Design could flesh out some nuances and improve our product landing page. And this one I was pleasantly surprised at because I actually started off the prompt. I gave it its website, well, like kind of like what it's about. I wanted to revamp the website, and Claude had some follow-up questions for me, which I completely ignored because I was in the middle of a meeting. And so what happened was Claude basically timed out and went with the defaults. And this is what it came up with after just perusing through my existing website just to get a context of what the application is. And I would say the result is pretty good. It's got a nice hero section with some display of what the app actually looks like. It's got the flow of what the checkout check-in process looks like for our application, and this is fairly accurate, and I thought the visual was decent. And yeah, it's got pretty much every section, testimonial, features, everything that you would expect from a website. And here's the nice thing about Claude Design. It created for me a mobile onboarding flow, which our application was sorely missing. Previously, users would just download the app and they would register and create an account. I didn't have a guided flow. And this is a part that I really like about Claude Design is because it's able to surface parts of your UX flow that you were missing before. For example, this enter code section, it was a really nice touch because previously I would have just a login form a registration form where you would just input the company code along with it. But this is a much more guided flow and is a much better user experience. And so I liked it so much that I ended up putting it in production. The other nice thing about Claude Design is that it creates these multiple variations of your designs. And in this case, we've got an animation that you can also pretty much drag and drop into Claude Code for it to implement on your application at some point. But it's able to give me multiple ideas and angles that I can work with. And this is something that, if you're working with a designer, it's a lot of work for them to create these multiple variations. So for Claude Design to be able to do it just out of the box, really fast, and you can iterate on these is a great tool to have. Most design tools need to have a way to accommodate for your company's brand. And to support this, Claude Design has design systems that you can create that has your brand information. When you set up your own design system, you basically give it some context as to what your company is, what it does, any sort of context to help it guide it. Now here, if you have your own brand PDF or anything like that, you can just drag and drop it in here. Or if you've got a Figma file, super easy. I'll show you what I've created for my company's design system. Our company is called Overseed AI, so a lot of our branding and messaging is around plants and growth. Some of these brand colors we've already had in the past, so I've supplied that to Claude Design. And with the information that I've given it, Claude Design's created for me various types. It also created some brand colors, but it did take some creative liberty and tweaked it a little bit, which I'm not too fussy about. And yeah, it's got a whole bunch of other stuff like, radius, badges, buttons, cards, form inputs. Like, it just does a great job of setting all of this up. And when you create your own design further down the road, for a website, for an app, let's just do a test app here. Test app, you click on the design system that you've created in the past. And when you create an application using that, it will follow the brand guidelines and match it to that. And let me show you what that looks like. And yeah, this is our corporate website that was created using that Overseed AI design system. And you'll see that it's using the same colors, the same buttons, the tags are similar. And honestly, I was really impressed with this website. Yeah, and this looks great. I wanted to showcase some of the projects our company was working on, including Vivo, Overwhisper, and Safir. We talked about Safir earlier. And also because I'm a content creator on YouTube, I wanted to showcase some of the videos that we have. And obviously with designs, they don't have actual data. So a lot of these is hard-coded to stuff that is just kind of made up. But I ended up really liking these designs, so I decided just to push it to production. And so this is what it looks like in the real life. The designs look very similar. I had Claude Code design it for me. The only difference here is that I took out some sections, put in real data where it made sense. For example, these GitHub stars are actually fetched from GitHub. Releases ship, same thing from GitHub. Channel views, these are accurate. And yeah, the YouTube section also is pulling the data directly from YouTube. And yeah, there was a little bit of work trying to set this up. I needed to set up the YouTube APIs on the Google Cloud platform there. But aside from that, yeah, this was relatively seamless. Going back to who this application is for, I would actually say that it's for a lot of different people. The only catch here being that you do need to have that paid subscription. But if you're a developer who struggles to have good, compelling designs, you're able to create nice aesthetics that also has really good considerations for the user experience. And not only that, if you don't like the design, you can make tweaks to it all the time. So for example, let's go back to our Overseed website. Say that you wanted to swap out this right-hand side for a video. You just circle it with the draw feature on the top right, and we can type anywhere to leave a note. Say, hey, can we swap out this release card for a promo video, maybe vertical orientation? And then we send that off and let Claude work on it. All right, so Claude Design's completed its work. You can see that it's now been replaced with a vertical video. It looks like we can't really play it, but it looks really nice. All right, let me show you how to create a new prototype. Let's do a construction website. Then you specify the design system. Click create, and here, this is the interesting part. You provide the description of what you want. Obviously, it's better to be more specific as you can, but it's okay if you're not terribly specific. The whole point of design is to kind of iterate, just take out the parts you don't want. Here, the really nice thing is that you're able to attach more than just your prompt. So you can add screenshots, you can add code bases, your design system, even a Figma file from Figma if you have it. One thing to note about attaching code base is that you can basically select the entire directory. You don't have to zip it up or anything. You just click on it and then just drop the entire directory into the modal here and then click attach. You don't need to zip it up or anything like that. let's talk about some gotchas here. The primary thing is that the app Anthropic really likes to call research preview. They pretty much release a lot of their applications in research preview because it's actually very buggy. You'll run into a lot of issues. For example, I had this one design for overseas AI websites that just refused to work. We kept getting these errors, and the only way that I could fix it was to retry, but then obviously the retry also failed. And I think at that point the app was down for the entire day. And a lot of other users on Twitter were talking about the same issue as well. So these research previews by Claude is just not the most reliable of things. The other problem I faced was switching away from the page while the application's working. Now, this is just poor state management on Claude Design's side. But basically, if Claude Design is working on a design on that page and you change pages to like a different project, it messes something up and something goes wrong. So for example, Conflu is another application I was working on, and I switched pages while I was designing something else on my overseas AI website, I think. And you can see here Claude talking about how the conversation is not matching the one on the page. So basically, you don't want to be changing pages while the design is designing. Otherwise, you're going to get some weird issues like this. I don't understand why this is a problem. The work actually happens behind the scenes on a backend server somewhere. So for them to tie in the state to the front end, I think is a huge mistake, but it is what it is. Research preview. Let's just move on. And finally, the last issue is with export to Claude Code. And this is the part where we talk about taking your design and implementing it with Claude Code. First, let me also explain that when you are designing, it's actually creating a very small web application. So this overseas AI website is actually a file, an HTML file that has React components, has assets, it has styles, it has an HTML file, and you can even open it up and see, well, sorry, if you open it up, you're gonna get the actual HTML rendering, but it has the actual code behind the scenes to make this happen. And so all you need to do is technically export it and tell your AI to build it. Claude Design has a really nice menu action to be able to do this exactly. So you'll want to click share and then click hand off to Claude Code. And so you open up a Claude Code session and then paste that in directly. And what this does, just to show you, is it downloads this file. And you can see that it has instructions on fetch this file, read its README, and implement the relevant aspects of the design. And if you open up that file, the README contains instructions on how to actually implement this. And it also has a project files, which, like I showed you earlier, contains the actual React files and the HTML to make rendering of the designs happen. Now, the tricky part here is that when the AI actually goes ahead and builds it, it tends to just build it. It doesn't incorporate it into your application in a very nice way. The instructions have some wording to say, hey, don't just go ahead and build it out, try to accommodate with the rest of the application, but it doesn't actually really do that. So what happened for me is on Safir, it created that onboarding flow. So let me show you what I mean. When I told Claude Code to implement the design for my Safir app, this is what it came up with. It did a really good job, but unfortunately, what ended up happening was some of the pages that was leading back to the onboarding pages didn't. So we had this login page, and what ended up happening is when you click this back button, it would not navigate back to the onboarding. The other problem was that if you look at the design files, it didn't actually have the final step where it goes from the company code to the registration form. So what ended up happening was it would just get stuck here because the button, like the app didn't know where to go after you click continue. So yeah, what ended up happening is I had to go back in and reconfigure this continue button so that when the user puts in the code and presses continue, it actually goes to the registration page with that information filled in. So long story short, when you hand off the design files to Claude Code, it's going to build it, but it's not exactly going to integrate it in a way that is completely in line with the rest of your application. So you just got to be careful with that. Maybe you just need to give it a little bit more tweaking in the prompt so that it's able to kind of think about the edge cases and build around it. But that was my experience using Claude Design export to Claude Code. It just had these little issues that I needed to touch up further down the road. Now, if you're using Claude Design to just build a simple brochure website where there's very little interactivity, it's just like page navigation, I don't think this is that much deal. For example, when I was working on my overseas AI website, this actually went by really fast because I don't really care about some of the application functionalities. There's not that much. The main thing is just fetching data from GitHub and YouTube, and I knew I had to supply that information and integration by myself, well, through Claude Code. But aside from that, this website was very seamless for me to implement with Claude Design. But yeah, that's it for this video on Claude Code and Claude Design. I think that they're the perfect halves of a whole. Claude Design is basically the tool that I've been waiting for my entire life. I just wish it wasn't in research preview and it wasn't so buggy. And the other problem is that it does seem to be fairly expensive for a lot of people. For you to kind of get good use out of it, I think you do need to be on the max plan. $100 USD is not something to scoff off at, you know? But yeah, if you found this video useful, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like, all the stuff that you usually do. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, you guys. Bye bye.